and presence to them and the mystery that they're living in this time of huge chaos and transformation and confusion, the staff are going to be trained in actually being present to that mystery in a non-judgmental way. This is going to be the farthest thing from a ideologically orthodox green place. This is going to be a place of welcome and openness to whatever nourishment this place could provide to whoever walks in off the street, including one of my most recent brainwaves is going to be a big sign in the front. Our washrooms are available to anybody who needs them. You don't have to pay for using our washrooms. So that's really the heart of the well, is this welcome, this honoring who comes in the door, and trying to facilitate nourishment in a reciprocal way. They may come in the door hungry for one thing or another, but they're also coming in the door with gifts. And we're going to establish relationships as much as possible where that flow happens. And so tonight, moving from a meal that we serve you to moving to a meal, we wanted to cook it all together, but you can imagine the logistics fried our brains. But we've created this meal together. That's much more the spirit of what the well is going to be about. So you've probably heard there's going to be a coffee shop, very much in the spirit of our brothers Bridgehead who have contributed to tonight, and Kyla will be here in a bit. There's going to be more of a library kind of space, a space where you can put out your laptop, pick up some good journals, do some work, have a good coffee, have something decent to eat, but also a lending library. There's a lot of really leading work that's been written about sustainability, community development, human development. That's very hard to come by in Ottawa. And if you can find it, it's also fairly expensive. I've got several people who have said to me, I've collected all these books and I'm tired of lugging them around. If you'll take them and I can still access them, they're yours. So we're going to have a lending library that's quite specialized around sustainability and community development. We're also going to be doing a bookstore on the same theme, and Collected Works has already agreed to partner with us on a consignment basis. It's just more square footage for them. Who else is involved? So Stone Food Works is in, Roots and Shoots, Chelsea Gardens, Grazing Days, Collected Works. Other things that are happening are there's going to be a multi-purpose space for the kind of programming. One of the things in the ethics of permaculture is you give away surplus. Whatever surplus you've got, if you can't use it in your closed loop, you've got to create a flow with the neighborhood or whatever else. So at least for a while, we're not going to be able to use the composting that we generate. But we're going to find gardens in the neighborhood, some of the Grow Slow gardens that Kirsten, wherever you're hiding, has got started, but other gardens. And so we're going to be giving them our compost. But right away, people saying, yeah, well, what about if they want to sell us their vegetables? Well, sure, we'll buy their vegetables or whatever. It's all about reciprocity and flow. So those circles that you see around the membrane of the well, the arrows going out and coming in, is trying to create flow in the community. So, for example, tomorrow's soup is going to be made out of last night's leftovers. And we're going to serve a really good hearty soup. But by about day 5, unless Jacqueline can really do magic, we're not going to be able to sell that soup. But it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. It's going to be hearty. So we're going to say to all the community service organizations in those neighborhoods and the churches, look, if you're working with someone who's actually hungry, send them over here. We'll feed them. We'll give them a meal. Now, it's not going to be maybe the freshest bread, but it's going to be fine. But if they come for a meal, we're going to ask them for an hour's labor because we want to honor that they're bringing something. Thing is that the well may not be able to use that hour's labor. So we're also going to be saying to those churches and to those social service groups, can you use labor? And for what? Let us know, because the Baptist Church may send us someone that we're then sending to Somerset West to do whatever. So we want to facilitate those kinds of flows. The other thing that we're going to have in surplus is space. We're going to have times when we're not using the space we have. And we're committed to making that space available to any group in Ottawa who's working on ecological justice or social justice for free. If they want to make this their home, it's their home. They can leave their stuff there, they can use the photocopier, but it will be their home. And if they want to buy coffee, great, they'll buy coffee. If they want a catered meal, that's a bonus. But the space is going to be surplus. We want to give it away to folks who, as many of you know, who've organized in that you spend ridiculous amounts of time trying to find, won't believe how long it took to find this room and all that kind of stuff. So the whole spirit that the permaculture approach has brought us is about creating flow, about giving away surplus, about there's no such thing as waste. That's totally a human construct. That nothing else in nature even recognizes the notion of waste. Somebody's waste is somebody else's food, however that turns you off or on. So this is what we've been cooking. And as some of you know, we've run into a major obstacle around real estate. The amazing thing about this well is that I've talked to this about professionals that we need help from. Lawyers, architects, graphic designers, and every one of them has said, I want to be part of this. So I'll do this much for half price, or I'll do that much for pro bono, or whatever it is. Like they beyond their professional interest, they want to participate in this. The one place that hasn't happened is with a landlord. We're committed to being in Wellington West or Hintonburg, somewhere in there, and it's a hot real estate spot. Haven't found a landlord who cares at all what we do. They're just looking to speculate on rent. So by the end of the summer, we hit a wall. I certainly hit a wall. Really frustrated, not only with not finding a place, but just being exposed to what frankly felt like uninhibited greed. If Westboro can get $55 a square foot, Hintonburg wants it as soon as possible. And, you know, even if we found a decent lease for 5 years, we'd be looking at 200-300% increase, and we'd be out on our can. So just being exposed to that kind of thinking, which for me is the underlying economic model that's led to all the environmental and social difficulties that we're experiencing, really pushed me up against the wall for a good month or so. And what it did is it actually brought some, I think, really important insights about what the well is about. And just to say that for me, the well is very much like raising a child. A child comes into your life, they are a phenomenal mystery that you'll never actually understand. But you're trying to honor that mystery, to support it as much as possible, to stay out of the way, to take your own crap out of the way so you can see that mystery. Well, this well has been revealing itself to us in the same way that our kids have. And so a couple of new insights really came true when we were up against that real estate problem. The well is really trying to embody an alternative economic model. It is not based on unlimited growth, on ever expansion. It's trying to do something quite different. And yet to throw it onto a street with hyper real estate, greed happening, felt like finally, it's like pushing a puppy in front of a truck. I mean, how could you do this? So I realized we have to create a shelter for the well. We have to create a buffer between that fairly rampant greed, escalating real estate driver, and this alternative model. So it actually split the project into two phases. And one phase is come the spring, Jacqueline and I need to find a home that we lease probably 3 to 5 years to get going. And it may not be the whole enchilada, but it's going to be as much of it as we can make work. Meanwhile, a second project has kicked into gear about buying or building a building that will house the well within 5 years. So when this lease comes up, we're moving to our own home. And we'll talk about that other dream in a minute. But what that made clear was the well, it felt like the well which we had started off with the notion that I would arm twist a few old friends who ended up with too much money to help bring this about, and we would sell community shares over time. It felt like it was truer to the well to actually start off as a cooperative. And George Brown, who's here, has been really wonderful support in understanding how these co-ops could work, some innovative models. So from the beginning, the well is going to start off as a multi-stakeholder cooperative. There will be founding members. Not going to be a whole lot of, there's going to be a small number. And it's going to be quite clear that those founders are charged with the vision, to hold steady with the vision and to work out all the details. Then the workers who work in this place, this well, whether they're working in the food or the bookstore or whatever else, they're going to end up being owners, as in a workers' co-op. They will have equity in the company. And there's going to be community members. So people will be invited, and you'll be invited to become a member of this cooperative. and you'll have a stake. You'll be a part owner in this cooperative, and there'll be, we'll make it really clear what the rights and the responsibilities are, and there will be investors as well. And there will be an offering statement that we'll do that will draw investment, community investment to this asset, and then there'll be the public who just choose to come and buy a meal. So from the start, it was like the DNA of the well became clearer. At its heart, this needs to be a co-creation, not something that Jacqueline and Bill break their necks to put on the street and hope others will show up, but rather that we say, look, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen because a whole lot of people want it to happen. And we're going to create multiple ways that people can find their relationship to it and contribute figure out what is it that the well has to offer them and what do they have to offer the well. So we're going to invite you tonight to start thinking about that, and it may be that you want to invest a ton of money in this. I'd like to chat with you. It may be that you want to organize the lending library as a volunteer. It may be that you want to work here. It may be that you want to sell vegetables to the place. It could be anything. But what it has to be is it has to be true for you. It has to be something where you feel this is important. I want to be part of it. I have something to give, and this is a surprise. So I have something to give, and I have something to receive. So the invitation starts this evening to say, try and listen and see what your relationship is to this creature who's wanting to show up in the West End of Ottawa, and the whole thing is invitation. Some of the things that have killed us in the past is orthodoxy of there's one way, there's better ways than other ways. This is going completely against that. It's saying you know what's true for you and how you want to be in relationship to that, and there's no way to be in relationship to this that's better than another way. The only thing that's not invited is to be untrue to yourself. So it'll be a multi-stakeholder co-op. People have all sorts of different ways to set up relationships with it, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because of the sum total of that energy. So that's the well.